joined the publishing house, I was a freelance trainer. I worked in companies mainly and in Cambridge Institution in Munich. And I also worked in Japanese import-export company for about 7 years in the marketing department. So I've had in-company experience and training experience. Okay, to wake you up after that huge meal, I'll give you just a quick warm-up. If you can see what's missing. If you invest in yourself,
education,
training,
people,
Fishing.
smell something. Sorry?
bank stock.
Bank stock. Yeah, positively and negatively.
Sunshine.
Oh, beauty. Okay, but it would take an architect to say this. It's not from, it's not talking about cosmetic surgery or anything about the architect. Okay, and this is we have. It's one of the smallest elements that we have in the magazine. We go from very small to long feature articles as well, but this is the smallest element you'll find in the magazine. Okay. I don't know who knows anything about Spotlight for Life. Okay, you're selling it for me there in the corner. A few people do. Okay, just quick background that it was founded actually in 1981. It's celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. But that's Spotlight magazine, the general English one. It belongs to the Verlagsgruppe Georg von Holtzbring. I don't know, that's quite renowned, reputable publishing house in Germany. And there are 100 of us in Munich from 18 different countries. We have the 7 print products, which is quite interesting. You see we've got actually 3 for English, from teenagers, general English and business English, and then you have French, Spanish, Italian and German. And basically they all are targeted at the German learner. So all the magazines from the German one obviously isn't targeted at the German learner. They all have translations and tips for German learners of each of these languages. And the German are for non-Germans learning German, and the glossaries are in simple German. So that's basically our portfolio. We also go online. Most recent, we have Business Spotlight course, an online shop which specialises in language learning products, and also the video platform Delango, which is really sort of video courses with exercises, and the Sprachtest.de, which is together with TELC, which adult community colleges take these exams in Germany, so it's kind of, we work together with them. Okay, as time goes by, that was us in 2001, and this is us in 2011. Sort of superficial changes, I think you'll see first of all, apart from people who work there. I mean, Ian's also been there 10 years, I've been there 10 years. So my hair colour's changed, his hairline. Our waistlines have changed. That's superficial how we appear, but the magazine has a completely different appearance as well. I don't know if anybody, you can see the general thing. I mean, at the top, on the first of 2001, it was very general, the topics that we covered. Like, is your business English good enough? I mean, one magazine we covered all business English, whereas in 2011 we're going into more detail, like meetings and how to survive them. It's also a topic we covered in 2011. In this particular issue, we go into the psychology of meetings, not just about the language that we use, but it's more about strategy. Something else, we've got intercultural communication. Here you have working with Americans. When we first thought about doing Business Spotlight, it came out as a quarterly magazine, and we worried in the beginning that we wouldn't have enough sort of intercultural topics to keep us going. That hasn't been a problem because of the way things have changed. I mean, you'll see now in this issue that I've handed out, we've got how we use social networks and how different it is in different countries. I mean, we'll talk about the topics that we've covered as well, but it's not just about country-specific intercultural training. Something else, careers, how to find the best job. Now in 2011 we're talking about how to make the most of internships and how important they've become in getting employment and how to deal with them. Okay. So what have we learned in general? We'll also be specific. That sounds a bit crazy, but we did start off in the beginning with general English or general business English. But across the years we've introduced more specific vocabulary and this is for specific purposes. You see here we've got banking topics or financial English. This is quite a new feature, and also the legal English. What's also important, I think that came up this morning, is that getting experts or becoming an expert. It's not that we just get anybody to write these topics, these articles. We've got Matt Firth, I don't know if anybody knows him, he's very good in sort of the legal English or the legal English area, and he writes the page for us on legal English. He works in that area. Okay, with financial English, who wants to be known as a financial expert nowadays? Are there any? Okay. We had to make do in McMaster. But
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Okay, his qualification, actually, he does a very good qualifications, come from LSE. But you know, Gaddafi's son studied there. Happen studied there. You know, so we do have the experts writing on the paper. Nursing is another one again. Use people who are working in the industry or teaching in the area to write these pages for us. Okay, discussion points. So, you know, this is a workshop. I would like you to have a chance of exchanging ideas. You know, for about 10 minutes on this topic. This quote: trainers need to acquire detailed knowledge of the sectors they are working in. Another one. Trainers need to develop relevant industry and company-specific materials. These are quotes taken from an article that Ian Badger wrote for us back in January 2011. We've got a lot of feedback from trainers from these articles, a lot of critical feedback as well, not just some of them accepted, yeah, this is the way that trainers need to go. But on the other hand, some trainers said these recommendations are intimidating, impractical, and as far as I can testify, having taught in a wide range of industries for a very long time, untrue. Okay. So this was James Schofield. He also writes for us. But he's been a trainer for many, many years. He works for Siemens. He specialised in financial English training. He's also presented at BESIG several times. I'd just like to give you 10 minutes and see whether you could come up in groups of 3, 4, maybe it's another statement, whether you agree with these, you agree with the top two. Ian Badger's right. James Schofield is nearer to the truth, or you think neither of them? Is there a middle way? I mean, are you trying to find, to become these specialists? As Carol said this morning, you need to become specialists, or is that not possible because of the number of companies that you have to work for, number of sectors, number of industries? Can you really be an expert in all of them? Okay. So I give you just a couple of minutes to think about that. Anybody like to add to that or say their opinion?
Well, in my experience, if you're going to be teaching business English in those companies, you can't be expected, but I don't think I have to know everything about every company. I mean, obviously have a general idea, but I can't be expected to know all the medical terms, all the engineering terms, all the whatever. Yeah. But in fact, in my experience, most of the our customers have the technical knowledge, but they don't have to structure it together. So I bring the structures they need to write emails and so on, and they bring their technical know-how to that.
So I think instead of saying they're both extreme, I think they're both right. Yes. And they can both be right at the same time. And they don't necessarily go against each other. So I think a good trainer should know his client and should know what his client needs to be doing. and should agree the outcomes of the course with them, relevant to their job. But at the same time, we're language teachers, and we're not teaching the students to do their own job.
Yeah. So you go first.
I think we can use subject matter experts to, because if a subject matter expert who's principally an expert in their own area, if you ask them to make a PPT to teach all the words you need to use with your thing, there'll be information dump. They'll just have everything there and it'll be too much. A qualified trainer or language trainer can change and move that into something, a body of learning for the learners.
Create the scaffolds.
Right, and then what you need to do is be able to know enough to work with a subject matter expert to ask the right questions. You were saying earlier, you have a business background, to ask the right questions from an expert, and then turn that knowledge into a training course. Because the expert can't teach them, we can. We need to be the bridge between the experts, the top part, and the learners. So we need a business background or business knowledge, but perhaps not that expert.
We've carried out a lot of surveys over the years, and from what we've learned most of all is that the German students, anyway, they love to work. I mean, they love it when we test them. They love it when we have difficult features in the magazine. So one thing we've learned from that is that they like to do self-study. We have a lot of tests in our magazine, but we've changed the format that it's not just testing any arbitrary words or phrases or expressions. We try to set it in a scenario, so they have to work their way through to a target or to an objective. I mean, I think this sort of task-based teaching as best as we can do it in paper format. I mean, that's the idea that they haven't, at the end of this test, that they have this feeling of achievement, that they've managed to get to the end of it. We did a recent online survey, and I think the results that came back, I mean, we asked them, how far do you agree with these following statements? I'll read them out because I don't think you can see them at the back. The answer was here, yes totally or yes on the whole. It's important to me that I can be flexible with where and when I learn. 78% said that was important. I'm responsible for my learning progress and like using self-study material. 76%. I learn better when a trainer sets specific tasks. Might seem to contradict that. This is 59%. I need a trainer to set learning goals and to keep me motivated. We had 47% said that, which is quite interesting. And the last one we asked was, I couldn't see an e-learning course through to the end without face-to-face sessions. 38% said that they would not be able to do that, they need the face-to-face. So I think that's sending a positive signal for trainers here. At the end. I don't know how you see that. You can see it negatively at the top, that people like to be learning on their own, or they want to have a trainer. Okay, the usual thing we want to communicate. When we ask, what do you want to learn, which are the things we talked about earlier, the listening, the reading, the writing, the speaking. Speaking always comes out on the top. I mean, that's one thing, and that's usually the thing that they often feel most unsure about, but they want to communicate. This is one of the ones we had recently, business skills. It's a regular feature in the magazine, and it's email again, but this time it's management via email. So we don't just talk about how to greet, how to close an email. It's about how you're using email in your actual everyday business process or your workflow. We go into much more detail than just maybe course books do. The other thing we have as well is a lot of intercultural. Every issue has intercultural features. This one was on Mexico. It was on the country, but we've had things on gender. We've had them on corporate, sort of professional cultures. How they're very different. It's one thing to say culture in America. It's not all. Of course, it's not all the same. The genders are different. The types of business where people are working are different. We did one on stereotypes, which is very difficult. We tend to avoid talking about, or say that you should avoid stereotypes, but the stereotypes are there for a reason, I think. I don't know if you back me up on that.
Our
can't disagree with me.
I use both of them. I think I use the theories because it's very good that you start your students thinking about a country.
Yeah.
So, and they're very often experience is different. But one of the stereotypes is very good because people are never aware of that. They just assume things are like this. The Dutch football team is just a bunch of bastards, full stop. That's a general opinion in Germany, believe me. But basically, a lot of people spend the holidays in the Netherlands. So obviously when they go there and they spend time there, then it's completely different. So you can start with that, and I think stereotypes are good. And then like, what are the I always ask them, so what are the stereotypes of the Germans? What do you think the Germans are like? It's cultural awareness. And that's, so I think it's good to have both sides of it.
So with the communication, we had this, again from Ian Badger, that trainers pay too much attention to correct grammar and stop the communication process. This was one criticism. And trainees need to develop new areas of expertise in communication and culture. And I think that came up, sorry, wait, Ben, you were saying this morning that not to become specialists in a certain area, but it's more the communication skills specialist, is it? Is that your point?
I was suggesting that I think as business English trainers we need to have the soft skills, like we need to know how to negotiate, to teach negotiations scenarios. We need to know what happens in a real marketing meeting to teach a role play in that.
Anybody else about the cultures? Have any of you become intercultural specialists?
I think one of the drawbacks of the old ways of teaching negotiations was drawing on Anglo-Saxon frameworks, which clearly don't work in all parts of the world. You don't have to try to find, you have to find countries and cultures where they don't work. Like getting tough, this was the title of one of the lessons I used as an example. I tried getting tough when speaking in Croatia in vain. And you only get your invoice paid for if you build a relationship.
If you what?
So the Anglo-Saxon framework alone wouldn't work. So I fully subscribe to this. You should be aware of different ways of communication and intercultural content.
ELF. Okay, we talked, it's quite interesting that the last thing we finish on now is that correct grammar is actually quite important, whereas the ELF group Anhänger, I can't think of the word in English, supporters would be saying that the grammar isn't so important, you can leave some things off. Okay, it's not, this is actually off the wall, it's not from me, it's not from Business Spotlight, it's from Michael Swan in an interview that he gave with Darren Elliott, who's based in Japan. It was a very interesting interview, and he said that the idea that ELF will become the norm in English language training is off the wall. There are some very interesting aspects that, like pronunciation, focus on the things that are important for getting the message across, and not focusing on whether you've got the S on the end that he does.
What is ELF?
Oh, sorry, I say English as a lingua franca. And it's this idea of this international English, non-native speakers speaking with non-native speakers. They have a different kind of English than you would have the norm in the UK, in Australia, in America. And that there's this almost movement trying to make it become accepted as this is what we should be, this is what we could be teaching. But anyway, I've only got one slide for that. And if anybody doesn't want to say anything, I'll move on to the next one. Dog me. I don't know if we have any supporters of this movement.
Candy.
Okay. Hello. I mean, I have to be careful how I pronounce it because sometimes it comes out. Okay, I won't say anything. Maybe. But I think no, there is. I mean, Carol was saying earlier, it was interesting when she said you go into a lesson and you're the coach and you can say what do you need and you move from there, and it's very good on a one-to-one basis. And you go in and you've got just a couple of students and it can work very well. I suspect in bigger groups and on longer courses that you actually need a bit more structure, and it's nice to go off. sorry, dogmate, do people know what this means?
Does everyone know?
No. Okay, it's based on the sort of Danish film industry that they try to create films using very little technology and going back to basics and communication. And this is the idea in teaching, that you can strip away a lot of the materials and just get back to you and me, or the learner with the teacher, and that we'll use what you as a learner have, what you know, what you need, and build on that. That you don't need all this glut of material, or this technology, which I think there's a lot of truth in that. But on the other hand, I also see the advantage, not just because I work for business, but also the advantage of having materials in a lesson, especially if you're working in special fields or different industries. You need something to support it. I don't know if anybody else would like to say anything.
No, I was going to say that as things are not black or white,
No.
it's like
This is
everything else it's like you don't have to go to extreme, just makeup and maybe technology books and then no content. So it's like a balance, like everything else.
Yeah.
The same with the maybe lingua franca or whatever.
So can I ask you first, because you haven't said
Yeah, I think I'm a great believer in this. However, I think it's much more time consuming often for the teacher, because to keep tabs on where they're going, to keep tabs on emerging language, and to give the course a sense of focus, and also the learner, that they go at the end of the year actually remembering things that they've done. It's a far more relevant way of teaching, because really the learner is the resource all the time. They're the agenda.
The learner is the focus.
But it's the question, and some people have just been trained from, since they started school, into course books and working their way through kind of what they believe is a system, and not having that there can disconcert some learners, so that the sensation they get, which might be a false perception, can be that they're not progressing because they haven't got a sense of progressing through something physical. So that's the only major problem I have with dogma.
Even in big groups.
But especially in groups.
It's also a cultural thing. I recently had a couple lessons with high-up people who were just exhausted from their day. And I came in and they said, "Can we just talk?" And they talked for 90 minutes and they apologized. They said, "I'm so sorry. This must have been a really bad lesson for you." Because I thought this was brilliant. I said, "But all I did was talk." You want to kiss them for talking. Yeah. They were apologizing to you, but this is a very, I mean, Austria, Germany, it's not that different. I don't know how this is in another culture. It might be very different in Greece, for example, or in Spain. They might feel that's great. Or in Venezuela, in Uruguay, how is it there? Are they happy if they've spoken for 90 minutes?
No, well, actually, maybe they can do the same. So I'm sorry, I spent the whole class talking about this of my job.
They do
so,
apologize.
Yeah, they do. I say, well, no, that's great. That's what I'm here for.
Exactly, that's what I said to them.
And
Exactly, right. But they really felt guilty for it.
I think lots of people, when we talk about dogma, lots of people always focus on the kind of puritanical dogma 95 aspect of it, and Scott Thornbury's a big proponent of that. You should use no materials, etc. But if you look at some of the other writers and some of the other ideas, what you're describing there is actually a classic dogma approach. You start with your student. You find out what your student is, who your student is, where they are now, where they want to go, and you find the best way to help them get where they want to go. If that means you go to Raymond Murphy's English Grammar in Use, if that's what they need and that's where they are, then that's where you go. If it means you talk for 3 months and that's all you do and you provide the language, if that's the way they learn, then that's the way you do. And that is the dogma approach.
The blend is, of course, the way of getting into the business spotlight blend, even though dogma okay, but we have a lot of material. The main thing is the magazine, which we launched, as I said, 10 years ago, and gradually we've expanded this because we realised that the magazine on its own was not enough. The first thing we added a year later was actually help for the teachers to how to use Business Spotlight magazine in the classroom, which is now called Business Spotlight in the Classroom. And we have the audio because people wanted more listening. It seems that you can't learn a language without listening to things. And on this audio as well, we have a lot of authentic interviews on the street, not just magazine articles read or listening exercises. There's interviews that are authentically recorded, not always scripted in the studio. There's a sort of mixture. That's what we've learned that students want. want. They want a mixture of authentic, but they also want structure. Then we launched the website a few years later. The students kept telling us, or our readers kept telling us, we want more work, we want grammar. We came out with a grammar booklet and a plus booklet, which is an exercise workbook. They want, our readers want to work. And this is the feedback we get. The most recent addition is then Skill Up, which is basically a vocabulary guide to certain topics, which we introduced only a year ago. Seems longer. Okay, but that's the blend. And then we actually help students and teachers how to put all this together. The magazine always comes with little symbols, telling you where to find things like that. That was a business skill article, and then at the end of the article you'll see there's audio, there's plus, and there's something on the web. And in this case, yeah, there are exercises on the audio, there are exercises in plus, and then we also have Bob Dignan and the video online giving sort of extra tips, which is open. It's all, this content is actually free, but the transcripts are for premium members. And anyone can go online and watch Bob doing this thing. Okay, so that's all together. What we've also learned over the years is sort of this relevance. We're very lucky. Well, I don't know how you see this. It's kind of cashing in on tragedy. But over the years, we had the nuclear power came out in 2010. We then expanded a lot of material online because we felt, we heard from teachers that they wanted to, what have you got on nuclear power, what have you got? We actually had a head-to-head that we put online, and we created a lesson plan, we added audio material, and that was welcomed by our regular learners. I don't know how you would see that, whether you want to have more content that is really up-to-date and relevant, news happening now, and you want a whole load of material, or you don't want to have that, or you don't have time to have that, you're just following your course book or your... This one as well, we talked about earlier about women, why there are so few women at the tops of the ELT profession. This is one thing that's a huge topic in Germany, about whether there should be quotas or across Europe. This went down very well. What was also nice was this, we got feedback also on the image that we used here, whether it's the woman, I don't know how you see that image, that it's really a woman trying, I don't know, it's quite, you can use this, just the image itself, yeah, visual images, to talk to your students or to get a discussion going. I don't know.
She's leading the group.
She's leading the group.
She's leading, like...
She's a bit masculine, but she's
quite a bit aggressive.
She's the top dog.
Yeah.
Top dog.
The top dog.
It's very self-confident, I would say.
Yeah.
She hasn't got a noose around her neck like the guys.
No. One of the guys has either free. Anyway.
I think she's been lucky, she's been defensive.
Okay, well, we've also learned from our readers as well that words don't come easy. We've had, again, surveys in the past where we've asked about how they communicate with teleconferencing, and that was one of the things that came up on the top, is that they found them very difficult, whether with native speakers, non-native speakers, but the thing that they found they were lacking most was then words, that they couldn't understand the words, they couldn't get the words out. So that's why we have in the magazine a lot of vocabulary, a hell of a lot of vocabulary. We also have learning tips how to learn this vocabulary, and there's just one page of grammar. And some people might think it's quite a thick magazine, there's just one page of grammar in it, which we focus more on words and skills. The words is also, what to learn, what do learners need, where do they have problems. Okay, I've just put two little wordles up. Does anybody know wordles? They're quite useful for making sort of, sorry?
Word clouds.
Word clouds, exactly, sort of visualise them. I put a few in here, sort of words that might, for Germans, that they might find difficult learning. For example, why would they find rent, for example, difficult? It's a false friend, for example. Or misty. Again, it's another false friend. I don't know if people don't know. German here is actually crap. Credit.
Yeah.
Credit and a loan, but it's also, credit is used a lot in the same areas, but also it's also false friends. You have to be really careful with that word when you use it in German. This idea of I made a killing. Hear that? You think, oh my god, what happened?
It's just bad grammar. It's I killed, surely.
The idea of overcast and overhead. You know, on one hand you've understood what over is, you know what a head is, but this combination then, overhead, I've got no idea, overcast, I've got no idea. It's these words, the same with all the project vocabulary, it's the same thing, sort of collocation, cognates. And these are the words that we put in our skill up groups. We've divided it up into areas that we think help the students, whether it's idioms. Idioms only take up a very small part, but they are useful. And others are in word fields, word maps, trying to find new ways of learning vocabulary, giving them tips what to do to make the words stick, help them remember.
Sorry, is that in the business?
That comes with the Business Spotlight magazine, yeah. But again, it's with German. There's one in there. So that's all about words and how important they are, and that's why we focus a lot on words. Okay, short but not stupid. I think we talked about it earlier, not sort of dumbing down material. I don't know if you recognise it, that's our quote we had this morning about the beauty. Margaret Thatcher, being powerful is like being a lady. You have to tell people you are, you aren't. This kind of thing. It's just nice little elements that you could use in the classroom as well. To get that laugh, to get people to break the ice. I think they're very nice. And these short stories, we have a lot of examples how to use these short stories or news items in Business Spotlight in the classroom for teachers. I think that's nice if you start off with something small and then maybe expand how students see it, using the dogme approach, but just starting with something small and then moving on. Okay. So another reason why we also introduced a short story, that's very popular for some reason we always focused on a lot of businessy things and we forgot about the fun side of life. The Spotlight, the general magazine, very much on lifestyle, travel, fun, socialising, and then realising Business Spotlight that maybe we weren't doing enough to say that business people have fun too, or like to read for pleasure. And this was one thing that we introduced as well.
Is that Ian again?
No, this is James actually. This is James. It's a lovely, he's got a nice sense of humour, and it's amazing how the level is usually medium or advanced. Now, the latest one I think is an easy story. We said we had to keep it very, very simple, but not dumb. Then we get around to technology, which I think might get people talking again, I hope. It's time I'll give this back to you. Okay, we have Business Spotlight online, and we're developing an app at the moment. Unfortunately, I can't show it to you today, but I think this is kind of the future, how we see it, that there will be a good website with lots of up-to-date material that students can access and have a huge archive, words, audio, video, and then a mobile app that they can access words or a learning application when they're on the road. And they've got that kind of downtime, they've got nothing to do, they can take out their smartphone and play around, hopefully, with language, and that's how we hope it. But just one last discussion here. Again, back to Ian. Trainers need to use technology to increase the reach and effectiveness of their teaching. They need to use technology appropriately and beware of its limitations. Okay, the other side of the coin.
Okay.
This is from our Business Spotlight Teachers Group. We have a Ning where people can join up. We started a discussion on this topic about dramatic changes for teachers, and this is one of the comments that came in. So far, I have come out of classes leaving satisfied learners, even if I have to use a blackboard and chalk. The other one. Technology can enable or it can get in the way. I have a great deal of resources on my laptop. It keeps me flexible and I can take class notes, but sometimes it's just better to close the lid. Can I ask who, you know, on a scale of 1 to 4 with technology, how much you use in the classroom? How many would say you're a 4?
In the class.
A lot, you say?
In the class.
Or you, with your students, encouraging them to use it, whether it's online courses, webinars. You know, how many are on 4 using it a lot? Not that many. And how many on 1? Not at all.
And so I think also in a business environment as well, they're not most, at least the company I work for, would not want to pay for a course where it was only classroom training. I think they'd expect there to be something for staff to do in between other stuff, you know, half an hour empty, they can do something.
Would they expect you to be on call on the other side of that technology to be able to, you know, give feedback to the students, or is it they want something that there's online that the students can do? Or they expect you to be...
I think they expect just-in-time learning. They expect the learners to be able to learn something just in time before we need to do something. For example, if they're writing an email and they're not really clear about what phrase to use or what word to use, there's something for them to access that's internal, that's specific to their job, specific to their need. They can access that, and it's something that I would have written for them. It could be a 5-minute e-learning, it could be a short podcast they can download, and then go back to their job to write that thing. So it would be just-in-time learning. It would not be that they come to a class and then 6 months later they're expected to use that because they've forgotten it in the meantime. So I think that's why technology is so important, because I can't just pop around to their desk when they write an email.
This is the 10th and last point. Be glad to get into debate. Create a PLN is my recommendation. PLN, do people know what that stands for? Personal Learning Network. Okay, it's very sort of trendy now, but it's basically to keep up the contact, to keep up networking, either with you and other teachers, you to your students, or your students to each other, so this peer support. But how could you do that? I mean, this is the idea of, in the past, you're on your own, this is you as the teacher sitting there, I don't know if you can see a few dollars there, but he's got for a on his own, you know, it's depressing sometimes, especially now if you're working as a freelancer. When I was working in banks, people would be very secretive about some of their work. They weren't sharing. It wasn't a very open situation, especially freelancers tended to hoard the material. That has changed, I think, over the last 10 years. And there is more openness, more sharing, more recommendations amongst each other. And I think you have to realise there's a huge amount of people out there with the same interests as you, trying to do the same things, supporting the same sort of processes. I mean, it won't end up like a mad party. I think it's just, you've got this kind of cricket match sort of atmosphere rather than some rock concert. But I still think it's important that there's a lot you can get out through per PLN. How this one first, I'll just show you another quote from one of the magazines. This is a British fashion designer. I don't use Facebook. I'd rather Twitter. Okay, that's a good one. Rather die.
Drink wine.
Drink wine. Go to conferences. Go to conferences. I don't use Facebook. I'd rather walk down the street naked. Okay, thank you for doing that. Please appreciate it. But okay, that's the one extreme. Facebook, no. What about this one? Percentage of 2-year-olds in the US who have an online presence? 12%. 100.
100.
100. You're close.
92?
Okay, this is parents immediately, as soon as their kid's born, they're up there, they're telling everything. But I think, okay, in some ways it's the parents behind this, but it's something we have to bear in mind. For those of us who are going to be teaching for the next 20 years, some of us might not, you might not get this generation coming up. But you know, we have to realise that technology and this social networking is going to be the norm for our kids and students coming through. I don't know if you probably use Facebook more than anybody. Dad? I know Dad does. Twitter is amazing. Twitter, yeah.
I guess recently Twitter, especially Twitter and Facebook, have been the tools for revolution. All over the Middle East. That was behind the success of some revolution.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it seems a bit trivial to be talking about this, how to learn, you know, the correct tenses, or how to learn skills where it's brought down government or fight out government. Yeah, so that's Twitter and Facebook, how that can be used for social networking. I think it's something teachers have to, trainers have to bear in mind. But when we ask which social networking tools would you imagine using to improve your English, YouTube came out quite high with 51%, Facebook was 60%. Even though in Germany, it was quite interesting that there was almost half said that they know it but are not keen on using it yet. I mean, the Germans are quite, they're worried about their privacy, they're worried about data protection, and they're avoiding, they're not as open to use Facebook as other students. You'll find more about that in the social networking article that we had. Twitter, which surprised me, was 17%. I thought that's quite high on Twitter. It's not used a lot by teachers. And Sing, which is really more of a German networking platform, that's quite popular as well. LinkedIn, we asked, they're only 3%. I think LinkedIn is more of a US network rather than a German one, so that's probably why the figure there is quite low. Is LinkedIn more popular, do you think? I don't think it is. I mean, I think at the moment Sing is more popular among the German students. It's the impression that I get. I mean, I'm on both, and I get more requests from international people via LinkedIn, and from Sing it's more my German colleagues or acquaintances. It's the same thing as LinkedIn, really, but it's just more for the German market. Copy. How many of you are on LinkedIn? Oh, that's good. Yeah. So you just go look online and then look for any of the people who are here, and then my recommendation is find someone. Okay, it comes up later. Key tools. Yeah, Ning. I don't know if, of course, BESIG uses it.
Yeah.
It started charging now, though, isn't it? It started charging, but it's still very low. It's about $100 for a year's membership, and you can have, I think it's
$200.
$200. We signed up with a special offer. At the beginning, when they changed, when they moved over to payment, there was a sort of window you had that you could have half price. We use it for trainers.
What is it?
It's good for, Ning is like, you can create your own personal learning network, have it in a closed area. So it's quite free. It used to be free for teachers, and now they charge. But it's still, I think it's still doable. There are a couple of interesting talks over this conference that look at Ning. I mean, if you're interested, it is quite an interesting tool to use with students, or as BESIG does.
Like we had a very popular webinar on ELF, and the Nings that went before and after just kept this thing so alive. It went and just kind of, how many of you were on the BESIG Ning? Just curious. There was a whole lot of stuff that went on about coming to the conference, you know, who's staying where, can we meet up and travel from Heathrow, Gatwick, whatever. So there's a lot of social networking going on with that. And of course for students to set something like that, if you're communicating internationally, Ours is all in English, so it is
I
definitely.
mean, I recommend taking a look at the ours and the IATEFL one. You had another one set up just for this, didn't you?
No,
No,
that's a
No,
Oh, that's the IATEFL one. That was just.
No, that's
Just one of our groups on this.
Yeah, but the BESIG one, that's yours, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah. That's your one.
That's
So, I mean, if you haven't joined up yet, it's quite a nice way to network with the people you've met here now.
And the $200 is paid by
We don't pay
You
yet.
don't pay.
We don't pay. Yes, it's the person,
That's important.
The person who has the network pay, it's not the members.
You won't get
Yeah,
a
so
cent
that's-
bill.
Okay, Twitter if you want to try out. It's funny that Eric should walk in right at this moment.
Bearing his mobile phone,
Very
checking his Twitter account.
tweeting something. Because it was actually when I saw the interview with you again, ISTEC in Turkey, and you mentioned as well. How spooky is that? Eric actually recommended the LT chat. It comes out, it's twice a week. I mean, I find sometimes it's just as easy to follow, to go back and look at the summaries and get an idea of where they're going, so that when you go into these chats for the first time, it is quite hard to follow, because on Twitter you've only got 140 characters. The tweets are coming in fast and furious, and you don't know what is this conversation. I mean, it can, at some point it does seem a bit trivial or infantile, some of the conversations that are going on.
Eric.
No. I'm not talking about the LT chat, but you can follow Eric as well. But that's twice a week. I think once it's Wednesday or
That's Wednesday morning and Wednesday evening.
Wednesday morning. Okay. For me in Greece it's in the afternoon, so it's about 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock. I think it starts. But it's worth following. They have different, and they notify the topics a couple of days before, and you can vote even on the topics that should be done. But go and look at the summaries first. If you haven't got a Twitter account, I mean, it doesn't cost you anything, and it's fun to experiment.
should mention the BESIG hashtag.
How could I forget that? Yes, hashtag.
And the daily BESIG as well.
Daily BESIG as well. Yes, hashtag BESIG. I mean, the hashtags just mean that this is the topic that's being covered, and you get, you know, it's a chance to exchange ideas with trainers. I mean, I find a lot of things are recommended that you don't. You know, they're not in the 140 characters, but they're recommended as sort of research papers that you can go and look up later on. I mean, it's more for that I find interesting material that you can then follow up after the actual chat session. Okay, LinkedIn again. I mean, I thought you should just link up with people working in the same industry and check out the groups that they've joined. I mean, it's kind of like lurking and learning from each other. Join the groups that seem to be popular. There's also a BESIG group on LinkedIn. But to tell you the truth, I don't know. You know, at some point you have to decide to concentrate on one. Otherwise, you just get bombarded with emails from all these different groups. But it's worth taking a couple of weeks to work it out. Facebook, entirely up to you. But I think, we've got Facebook, we've got Twitter, we've got Ning. And we've learned that we have to broaden our resources for the students. That some want Facebook, some want Twitter, some want audio, some want video. So I'm sure it's the same with you. You just have different learning styles, and you have to cater for them. Okay, for the future, keep innovating, keep listening to your learners, and keep them on track. Is sort of the thing that I'd like to finish with, which is actually a new product. So that's a very blatant plug there at the end. It's a product that we've developed. It took us a long time to develop. It's a CD, but it focuses on the authentic language, you could say, but also scaffolding, training, self-study material, how to be good at telephoning quite quickly. I mean, it's a 60-minute course. We don't look at too much vocabulary or phrases. We give them the essentials. We give them time to practice. We have nice sort of authentic dialogues. We have Indian speakers. We have Spanish speakers. We have UK speaker, Canadian and American, and it's all mixed up, following a scenario from start to finish, achieving something. I think that's what we've learned over the years, and we've developed this product. Okay, contact details. I mean, my business card isn't big enough anymore, but if you want, you can either contact us through boring email, you can follow us on the website, Facebook, Twitter, or me. It's up to you. Or in person. I don't have a phone. I don't actually.